Lord, we look now into your word and especially to trust you and realize that you're the sole confidence that we need to have in all the situations of our own life. Lord, and may these Psalms help to direct us. And maybe they used later when we would need to focus our attention in a particular area. These would be refreshing to us at those times. And we pray in Jesus Christ's name. Amen. All right, we're going to start at Psalm 62. And this particular one is about our confidence. A particular phrase is used only, even in the first verse, only, that repeats itself. And the phrase is repeated in verse 5. But it's talking about confidence, and it breaks into different elements of not having confidence in other things. And so we're going to start off, in the back row. We'll start with Dave. This is a Psalm of David. My soul waits in silence for God alone. From him is my salvation. Tell me about this.
David's telling us that he waits for God because he knows that's the only place that anything is coming from that have any benefit to him.
Yeah. So, what does it mean to be silent? Waits in silence.
As opposed to using another psalm as a comparison, be still and know that I am God.
Yeah. That's in Isaiah, but yeah.
Isaiah.
Yeah. But it has that kind of same, it doesn't mean the absence of doing nothing, the absence of doing something.
You need to think about it as opposed to contemplate it, as opposed to just, talking or being busy with something other than quiet time with God.
And I think in this psalm you'll see it's in reaction to what other people are doing. And how to react to other people's attacks. How I don't use the confidence in other things. And so when it says, silent for God alone, he is waiting for God's response or how to react to that. What is this? God is my salvation. What would that be?
Well, he's the one that can save us from our sins. And in David's context, it would be that he's trusted in the past and know that that's the only place that he can get relief from, is from God.
Yeah, so it probably has to do with like circumstances or battles or something like that. So
it doesn't say where he was somewhere here.
There's.
He was in the wilderness of Judah, I guess that's what it says at the end. But.
Yeah, it's just the idea is that it's broad enough to refer to various rescues.
It's chased enough times.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like the idea is that from him is my rescue. He's going to carry out from these impossible situations. And the temptation is to react in a wrong way to what people are doing. And sometimes we just need to listen, wait to see what God directs. Steve, verse 2, it says, he only is my rock and my salvation, my stronghold. I shall not be greatly shaken.
Basically saying, he's my rock or my foundation,
yep,
or my anchor. He only is my salvation, so he's the only way for salvation.
Yep. So, and again, this personal salvation, physical circumstances, rescue out of it. And the idea of shaken, it's interesting, is that I shall not be greatly shaken. This was used of a pole that used to carry heavy weights that would bounce up and down. Now, keep in mind, because somebody's going to have to answer the difference between these two verses, what's mentioned in these two verses and in verse 5. So whoever ends up with verse 5 needs to see the difference. So it says, I shall not be greatly strengthened. So he's my rock, he's my salvation. So what this expresses, is this, back to Dave,
Yes.
is this a statement? Is this a command? In yours?
It's a statement from someone that has done this multiple in
Right.
the past.
It is a statement about his circumstance, and
That he's been in this similar place before, and he knows the answer is to wait. And
Yep.
wait on God.
so keep that in verse in mind. Okay? Colleen? Now it switches. It says, how long will you assail a man that you may murder him, all of you, like a leaning wall, like a tottering fence? And we see the tone switched, right? Okay. How is it switched?
Almost like whoever is attacking him,
Yeah.
or coming after him is, how long are they going to pursue him? And
Does it seem
it
personal?
doesn't matter because they will get theirs.
Yeah.
God will take care of it.
Yeah, and the thing is that he sees it as personal, right?
Yes.
Somebody's personally seeming to attack him. Assail a man, that means kind of the idea of actually shout or to rush and attack, like an attack thing. So, and then they want to kill him, all of you. Now, let's talk about this like a leaning wall, like a tottering fence. Okay? So their attacks, their mindset is they're attacking with a certain assumption. So how do they think David's situation is? How do they perceive in their attack with those statements?
Yeah, it's almost like it just all of a sudden comes crashing.
Well, maybe this is a little bit better. Is they think
The way
he's
I understood it
Yeah.
in mine is it says, all of you will be shattered like a leaning wall and a tottering fence. So I almost took it as
yeah.
they will be under that wall. Like God is taking care of them. They will be shattered by God.
The heart. Well, it would have to come in this next verse. But if that's so, let's say, for instance, he's going to shatter them, and he could do that. The other option, like this one more reads, is that they're attacking him because he's vulnerable. They see him vulnerable.
Oh,
Right.
so they do think David's a pushover.
Yeah, they think he's kind of going down. It's kind of like pylon. Okay? So some people attack because they're jealous. Some people attack because, the blood's in the water. Right? So they that's what it could go that way. Right? It could be the idea they're going to get their comeuppance, but look at this next one, in verse 4. And Sue, it says, they have counseled only to thrust him down from his high place. They have delighted in falsehood. They bless with their mouth, and inwardly they curse. And this is see why I think it's still on that negative. They don't got their comeuppance yet. But go ahead, Sue.
They have counsel. Does that mean that they've gathered together
Yeah.
and plot against him, only to bring him down?
Yep.
And they find delight in it.
Yeah. Sounds like things in the news, right? Sounds like in the news goes on, right? Yeah, they delight it. What do they bless with their mouth? What does that mean?
I'm not sure, but inwardly they curse. So, are they somehow, is this towards David? It's not towards the Lord, right?
No, this is towards David. So a blessing is speaking well, a eulogy, speaking highly of. So they talk good on the outside.
But inwardly they curse.
Yeah, curse is that they really want to bring, cursing would be like bring destruction. So they talk one way, but they're really trying to undermine things. They're not plain in their speech, and so they're... Remember, this is all politics. This is how politics works. This is how the court works, the kingly court. So the thing is that, so they're having special meetings to try to figure out to get rid of David. Okay? And this is what people do. What are you going to do when they start, Sue, when they start having little meetings to get rid of Sue? Because somebody doesn't like you at work. That's what it'd be like. Right? All of a sudden they're in this meeting. So what's that meeting about? Oh, I can't tell you. It may be about you. That's what it would feel like. You know? So this is when you get... What do you think you'd feel like, Sue, if they were having this meeting about you and you knew they were talking bad about you? What would be the natural
First reaction.
What would be the natural reaction?
To be angry.
Yeah, and to lash out. That's why it talks about the other one where it says, we look back. This is what's happening when he says, "My soul waits in silence for you, God, alone. For you are my salvation." I mean, you want to bust in there, right? You want to bust into that room and tell them that you have not done this, and you're not wrong, and they're bad people.
But instead, we're going to wait upon the Lord.
Yeah. You see how the difference in that whole... I mean, there's always times in which there's scandals or people have all this time to talk behind your back. It just works. I mean, they got nothing else. Evil people plot. This never happens in the church, though. This is impossible for it to... I've never had meetings about me. People secretly try to... But you understand, in the past they have. It's just like, you're just trying to do what God wants you to do, and people do other things. But your reaction is to try to defend yourself. And sometimes you have to explain yourself, but the idea is that it's easy to want to resort to other methods than trusting God. Your confidence in saying, busting in the room and, making a big display will overwhelm them and they'll stop there at a little meeting. Okay? That type of thing.
Our flesh.
Yep.
That would only make you look worse.
Yeah. Yeah, but the thing is that this is how the methodology of extortion, we'll see at the end, these other things where he puts himself not to do those methods. See, in the Christian life, it is not necessarily the end result, it's how you do it. It's really about how you do it. Are you going to do it God's way? Or are you going to do what's pragmatic, what will work, what the world says will make it happen? Or are you going to put your confidence in God? So that gives us the tension. Now, Betsy, do you want to try this one, verse 5? So, does it seem familiar, verse 5?
It seems like the beginning.
Yep. So that it is slightly different, this one. My soul waits in silence for God. My hope is from Him. What word is replaced in this one?
So instead of from, wait.
instead of salvation, I think, well, my Bible says expectation.
Yep. So that's hope and expectation. So it tells you what the similarities are. It's still the same thought process. There's a little grammatical one you may not see right away, but the thing is that the first one is a statement. Remember we talked about earlier? This one is a command.
It's
okay.
Firm.
Yeah, and the thing is, what he's doing is he's commanding himself. So he's taking from what the past was, and now he's telling himself, okay, this is what you're doing now. You know, when you talk to yourself, okay, now you are going to wait on the Lord and tell myself my hope is in you. So he goes from, he basically has this self-talk with himself. He knows from the first time that this is what I did in the past, and now this is what I'm resolving to do. Remember, some of them, if you remember from Psalm 119, some of the things are statements, and some of them are resolves. And you have to resolve. You know, when you get into this, you know, people talking about you and doing all this thing, then you have to resolve, I am going to wait in silence. Okay, I should wait in silence, and I have waited in silence, but I'm going to tell myself to do it again. So you see how when we talk to ourselves, we need to tell ourselves we are going to hope in God. When those rough thing comes, right? Anything else you want to add, Betsy? Or?
I guess I'm thinking how God tells us to pour out our hearts to Him, too. Like, yes,
So
wait in silence for God, but also it's okay to tell God how you feel at the same time.
And you'll see that down in verse 8. So you're right, Betsy. The thing is that you can still pour out and be silent. It's waiting on Him, but it's not reacting in a sinful way. But yes, you can pour it out. So exactly, silence doesn't mean that you don't pray about it, tell Him about it. That's a very good contrast, because He encourages them to what? Pour out your heart before Him. Okay. Verse 6, Brandon, this is similar to verse 2. He only is my rock and my salvation, my stronghold. I shall not be shaken.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. It's almost word for word to verse 2, right? Instead of shall, or in verse 2 it said, shall not be greatly shaken. This one says he shall not be shaken.
So what is the difference with that?
So he's got an increased confidence.
Yes.
In God.
And he's telling himself, you know, in the past I didn't greatly be shaken. Now I just don't want to be what? Shaken at all. Right?
And this comes right after that resolve that he made in verse 5.
Yep.
So the more he thinks about this, the more confidence he's in.
Yeah, so he's, again, talking to himself to be confident about what God says and remind himself. So in the first one, he kind of reminds himself. He goes through this, he kind of remembers his thoughts as taking all these people. You assail me. Why do you guys keep doing this? And he returns back to talking to himself about it. The idea is that I alone are going to trust in God. Yes, there are going to be people hassling me. He's the one. Susie, verse 7, on God, my salvation and my glory rest. The rock of my strength, my refuge is in God.
Well, mine says my salvation and my honor depend on God.
Yeah.
So my good name, my rescue comes from God. And He's the rock of my strength, my refuge.
Tell me what a refuge is. Can you explain?
It's a safe place,
Yeah.
a place you run to. So He's the one I lean on and run to for safety.
Yeah, so that's how we. This is how we walk through those very things when people attack us, say things about us, assail us. We go back to trusting Him, and we remind ourselves, like that word glory is the idea of honor, like your translation has, weightiness, significance. And
he's essentially counseling himself.
Exactly.
Yeah, from verse 5 on, he's counseling the truth of what God is for him.
Yeah. Sometimes we got to preach to ourselves. We got to say it like it is. You need to buck it up. Boy, talk to yourself. Yes. There's nothing wrong with that. The thing is that because you have doubts and difficulties, Craig, trust in Him at all times, O people. Pour out your heart before Him. God is a refuge for us. Now, what's changed here, Craig?
He's talking about.
He's talking to others, exactly. He's kind of preaching it to others now, which is good, right? What is he telling them?
Basically, trusting God at all times.
Yeah.
Pour out your heart before Him, pray to Him. How much you want Him to be. That goes back to waiting in silence. We still need to pray.
Yeah, silence isn't inactivity, is it? Prayer is part of that silence. What's not silent is you're not, viciously attacking them in the flesh. So how do I turn from, how is it helpful, Craig, that I go from talking to myself, okay, to encourage other people? How does that help me?
Well, when you're talking to yourself, you're just talking to yourself. But when you're talking to somebody else, it really resonates more with you, I think.
Yeah.
Give you more confidence in what you're thinking and what you're saying.
Yeah, because you verbalize it before other people and encourage them to do the same. It doesn't mean that you're perfect at it either. You don't have to say, I got this thing mastered, and that's why I'm telling you. He's just encouraging, this is what we all need to do. And and it does help to talk to people about it. And actually kind of encourage people to do the same thing. That's why you can help, right? Somebody else who's in a similar circumstance, right? It helps you to talk to them. You don't have to have a sense that you got it mastered, okay? Doesn't make it any more right or wrong if you aren't strong in it. And so that's what we have to do. We have to then tell others. Dan? Men of low degree are only vanity, and men of rank are a lie. In the balances, they go up. They are together lighter than breath.
Just like today.
Yeah, it's always.
These low degree people, goons, they want to get in lesser ranks. They want to get them. Why? Because it's for vanity's sake.
Now, let me back up a second. Tell me how it switches now.
Oh, he's been talking to the Lord, praying for things, being reassured, and here's the conclusion.
Yep.
So,
And I think you'll see also is that these are how people have confidence.
yes, it's like
False.
They're lying. Now they're going to, the who, you put a mask on. We're high ranked. You're a fool. You're a liar. You're an idiot.
Yep.
You tell us wrong things. You're stupid.
Yep.
Compared to God, they're nothing.
Right.
David's here. Why he's not troubled? He knows compared to God, they're nothing. Even though he has to sort through it, he knows if God decided to hand him over, God, it's up to him to do. Your will, not mine. At the same time, he knows to Yahweh, they're nothing. They're vanity. They're in balance. So they're together. They're lighter than breath, which is interesting. Meaning, all the noise, all the rattling, all the effect is just like when the breath and the cold air type of vapor thing. Nothing.
So this is how people try to convey the sense that you should put confidence in them.
Yeah,
right?
Listen to me because I'm the president and I know where I am.
Right. I'm a man of power. I'm a man of importance. All of this is that they really are. It's just a deception.
It's also part of life that detached from God.
Yeah.
They're just trying to, build each other up with each other's. Basically, they're eating each other's garbage and shoveling each other's crap themselves.
Yeah. So what we have to do. Yeah. The thing is, you just have to realize is that the weight of people. I'm significant because I'm. is a lie. Okay.
People in Washington, they're better than everybody else.
Yeah. The whole political arena is you realize, well, this candidate's going to win because they got more money. Okay. Or because they're more well known, or whatever. Okay. What we realize is who's really in charge. I mean, Nebuchadnezzar figured that out, right? Took him a few years the hard way, right? That the Most High God rules in the affairs of men and does, puts people in places as He chooses. So, why are we not to put our confidence in men of high degree or low degree, or because
it's also what helps a lot is having a future view of God large or a future view of God small.
Right.
Trusting Him with a lot of stuff in life, with little stuff in life, because you'll be more shaken. You don't know Him very well, don't know how to apply it.
Yep.
Live for Him, don't know which way to go to get to Him about it. The more you know Him, though, then you're like better than God.
Yeah. So, men easy trust in mankind. So.
They tell us all the time.
Yeah. They keep telling us they're important. That's why we have to listen to them. Jay Walker says, verse 10, do not trust in oppression and do not vainly hope in robbery. If riches increase, do not set your heart upon them. Now, there are three other confidences in this verse, right? What are they?
Three confidences?
Yeah.
Don't.
So there's three ways you can... So, back to the whole thing. David could have reacted by what? Asserting that he's a big person.
Yeah, could have got angry, yeah.
Right. I'm the king.
Yeah.
And you should listen to me. You guys... It says, do not trust here in what?
Oh, in oppression.
So that's a methodology.
Uh-huh.
This is the idea of squashing your enemy.
Oh,
right?
The enemy's squashing you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is their method of doing it, and you don't want to adopt the same.
Right. No. Uh-uh.
It says, you should not trust in oppression.
Yeah, or robbery. Yeah.
Right, so how would that work today?
Bully.
It could be physical, right?
Or just with their mouth, they could be a bully.
Right. The thing is, they could take you to court, right?
Uh-huh.
They can use various means to try to undercut you, right?
That too. Yeah.
So that's oppression. What's the other one?
Robbery.
You could resort to stealing, right?
Yeah, or extortion, taking their money. Yeah.
Yep. And some people hope in being able to take things. That's how they're going to do. They're going to snatch things. What's the other one?
If the riches increase, don't trust them. Yeah, don't trust the riches.
Yeah, but I'm so good at having money that I must be important, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't solve. It doesn't overrule God.
No.
Yep. So all of these are what men do. Yeah. This is what they do. They either trust in, they try to have rank and importance and say, I'm over you. I have authority over you. They could either trust in oppression where they use physical force, financial force, or they can use robbery. They just take things.
So who's he saying do not trust?
Us.
Oh, so we shouldn't trust in our oppression to other people?
We should not trust in the methods of oppression.
Right,
So the idea is, remember, he's telling you here, men of low degree are only vanity. So what he's telling them, remember we went back to, he's telling us, the rest of the redeemed community, not to use these methodologies, as well as David.
Yeah.
So, because he says, I will put my trust in God, not in what? Oppression, not in...
riches, yeah.
Yeah, just because I have wealth doesn't mean that I'm going to trust it.
Before he's like talking to himself, telling him these things. Now he kind of switches till he's telling everybody.
Yeah.
The same thing. Well, I mean, is he just like sharing his wisdom then?
Huh?
Just
his means to how he did it. Yeah, Dave.
He's still talking to himself because he could do those things.
Right.
He had the ability to do this back to them a lot of people don't, but he had the ability to do this back.
He used his power.
Use his power for his own, to oppress them and to steal from them and to
Right.
do whatever. He's saying, when he said, my soul needs to wait, he needs to not do these things.
Yeah, so let's say, for instance, the king as the government, he could swoop in and take somebody's land.
Yeah.
Seize it. Even though he's not supposed to. But that's just robbery. It's just, it's governmental robbery. It's still robbery. So, but yeah, there is, he's kind of telling, but he's still restraining. This is what I don't do. If I'm going to put my confidence in God, I'm not going to do this. Because somebody might say, well, why don't you do this? You're the king, right? Why don't you do this? Just go in there and snap. I mean, isn't that what Ahab did, right? He had a big cry, and his wife helped him out. Come on. Let's just bump this Naboth guy off.
Got a vegetable garden.
Yeah, So that's robbery and oppression. Yeah, Dan.
So a couple of parables. One was a servant, he forgave him much. He went out and found someone, his brother owned less, and started doing the very thing he just was forgiven for.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. There's another one I had, lost it.
Yep. So you don't trust in that. Jay, it says, once God has spoken, twice I have heard this, that power belongs to God.
Yeah, these 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s always get me confused because they don't always line up. And the way I think this, I kind of look at this as that God spoke and he heard two different things. Or there's two aspects of what he heard. Is kind of the way I read it. And then in this verse, you have to go to the next verse to get the second half. But that the power belongs to God. That he's the one that's going to make this thing get resolved.
Yeah.
However this thing works out, it's going to be because of God's power.
And that's who I have to put my confidence in. No matter what it is, he doubles it up. The whole idea is to show you how certain it is. That's what you need. Power belongs to God. It's when we don't think that power belongs to God that people act like the other.
When you try to, I'm going to fix this myself.
I'm going to manipulate the circumstance. It's when I put my confidence in those other things instead of God coming to my aid. And verse 12, Kim says, and loving kindness is yours, O Lord, for you recompense a man according to his work.
Well, he's acknowledging that God is loving, and we get what we deserve. I guess it's based on what we have done.
So does it matter how I do it?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. It matters how I do it.
Yes.
And if I don't do it according to God's design, trusting Him through it.
Yes.
Well, I got back at them. Well, yeah, you did it the wrong way. And loving kindness here probably has more of an emphasis of dependable, faithful, unfailing in carrying out, recompensing people according to what they're doing. If you're going to have confidence in God, you're going to have a great confidence that God's going to what? Make sure everybody's going to get what they are going to get. Right?
Yeah.
So we put our confidence in God because God's going to repay people who do things to us according to what they have done. But He is also going to repay me according to what I do. You see, that's what we need to realize. Yeah, but they did this. Yeah, but do you want the same recompense as them? Do you want their same reward? No. So this, Kim? Yeah.
If going back to the word salvation throughout the verses that we just looked at, is it correct to say that the word means in this particular poem, and based on what we know about the situation David was in, that it means salvation means God saving him in his predicament. It's not the everlasting life salvation.
He is the everlasting Savior, but he's more focused on the rescue.
On the rescue.
Yeah.
Okay.
But remember, part of our salvation is to rescue us from those very things at which people try to oppress us. You know, the thing is, they try to bring shame. Like, he has to ask God to defend him and his honor and his weightiness. I think we did that earlier in the... but yeah, you're exactly right. It's really about out of his circumstance and what concerns him, what people are doing. So yeah, it's a physical rescue. But remember, it pictures the saving rescue. Because the reason why he's rescuing you, because you're his child, and he continues to rescue you to show the other rescue. So, any questions, comments? That could be a very helpful psalm in many ways. All right, we're going to go to Psalm 44. And this is a psalm that it puts you in the tension of, like, God's not answering, and you'd wish he'd, like, act quicker. And this is the one that kind of says, you know, why don't you act like you used to act when our fathers told us how miraculous you acted, and it seems like you're letting us go into this suffering and you know, we're being faithful. And it gives us this tension about being faithful at the same time that God hasn't come along yet. So
kind of a companion to the one we just read, where if you're resting in God, you want it. It's like, I want it now.
This is the other part is just like David could say that in a sense, I put my confidence and I've seen some results. I haven't seen the results yet for this circumstance. All right, Jessica. It says, "Oh God, we have heard with our ears. Our Father has told us the work that you did in their days, in the days of old."
Well, it's good. Their fathers, others could pass down what God has done.
Yeah.
His works.
So they're just recounting the past. Basically, they're just remembering the past works, but it's going to create a little bit of a tension for them. I mean, they do know what God did, and how all of that took place. So
when they talk like this, mostly they're typically referring to like the Exodus,
yeah,
like what God did through that whole.
Yes, Exodus is the primary example of all of that. Yeah, like, why don't you do miracles like, Red Sea, parting the Red Sea, conquering the land? Why don't you do water coming out? It was just like, and today it seems like you don't act quick. So, all right, Dave, 44:2. You with your own hand drove out the nations, then you planted them, you afflicted the people, then you spread them abroad. That's a pretty lengthy picture, isn't there?
Well, it's a picture of them entering the land.
Yeah.
From the past.
Right.
They are longing. This is recounting what God has done, and they're wondering, because they haven't seen anything recently, what they're supposed to do about it. They want him to do something, but they haven't looked at themselves yet to figure out, okay, what's my problem?
And if God doesn't act fast enough, do I give up on him?
Never.
Yeah. That's what this psalm does. It gets you into that tension. It's like, it's not fast enough, but I don't have an option B. Option B is not allowed. I'm not quitting. I'm not becoming unfaithful. So it goes, the idea is he drove out the people of the nations. He planted the Israelites there. He afflicted the people in the land and beat them. And then you spread them abroad. And, this could refer to the scattering. It could be the idea of the other one, the affliction of the people they were afflicted. So it could have this long thing like they're in exile type of a thing, picture.
In Dave's Old Testament survey, when you go through the taking over the land, it's like he makes a point that they didn't go in and like do everything at once. They did it like phase by phase by phase as God, led them.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't this instantaneous, okay, we're going in and we're going to wipe everybody out in 3-month campaign. It was years, so there's some time. They know that from the first verse. They know that this has been a longer process. That this is wasn't an instantaneous thing.
But sometimes when we read it, it seems like it's all so fast, quick, and we want it to happen for us. Like we read it almost. I mean, don't you read sometimes the New Testament, they're doing this and this. I mean, you thought wow, they're moving like if you read through Acts, boom, this is happening. But those were years.
Even the plagues, you almost feel like it's day after day. But it's not. It's like, okay, sometimes fast.
Exactly. So the plagues were, and all of that. And so what happens, we have to take the context. It could be the many 50 days in between each of the plagues that you have to wait, or months. And, but while you're waiting, you wish it was faster. Alicia, for by their own sword they did not possess the land, and their own arm did not save them, but your right hand and your arm and the light of your presence, for you favored them.
So we can't do it on our own. We need Him. By His grace, then things can get done.
Yeah, so they didn't. And he's going to make you gave them favor. But it's going to hint at this. Why aren't you giving us favor right now? And this is, they realized the right perspective. It wasn't like the Israelites were so wonderful and they had such power. But
it's hard to wait on His timing. I don't want to wait.
We all do, though. It's no problem.
I've been there.
Yeah, haven't we all? We don't. Waiting's tough.
Yes, it is.
It's easy to revert to flesh, but they're just presenting the facts. Okay, you did all this, and we realize that say in the Exodus, we realize you're the one who did it. We got the right point. We got in the conquest. Yes, you're the one who did it. And we'll go on to the next part. Hope, it says, you are my king, O God. Command victories for Jacob. How's it switched in tone here?
He's pretty. Well, I guess he's being busy, but a little, yes.
Yeah, it's kind of switched, and it says, now he's talking to God, right? A little. Here he was just saying, this is the past, and now he describes something about God, right?
Yes.
What does he affirm here that God is to him?
He is his king.
Yep. And what does he think about God?
He makes victories.
Right. He makes victories. So he has the right theology about who God is. God's the one who causes people to win for Israel, and you're my king personally, and you're my God. Okay? Again, we're setting up the tension. We got to set up the tension. You did this in the past, and we realize how it is. We've heard about it, and you did this, and we realize you're the one who gave the victory. Steve, through you we will push back our adversaries. Through your name we will trample down those who rise up against us. What is he saying there?
Yeah, this is now talking about from this point forward. He was talking about the past before, now he's talking about from this point forward. You're going to help us, push back our adversaries and through your name, you're going to help us trample down those who rise against us.
Right. This is the only way we're going to do it, right? Really, it's kind of the only way we're going to do it is if you do it.
Yeah.
Okay? But then you're going to find out, like, why you haven't done it. That's what he's going to make us feel like. Why haven't you done it yet? Why does it feel like we kind of went to the reverse? Colleen says, for I will not trust in my bow, nor will my sword save me. He has a right idea, right?
Yeah, can't do it on his own.
Can't do it on his own, right?
He needs God.
Right. This battle's not my business, Sword doesn't save. Okay, so he has a right thinking about how to apply it, right? It's kind of like how I'm going to do it. And Sue, but you have saved us from our adversaries, and you have put to shame those who hate us.
So God has saved them
Yep.
from those who are their enemy.
Yep.
And God has put to shame those enemies.
Yeah, so he's experienced this, right? They have applied it, they've done it the right way, and God brought deliverance. Okay? Verse 8, in God we have boasted all day long. We will give thanks to your name forever. Betsy?
So they're praising God and kind of maybe no matter what, they're going to give thanks to God.
Yep.
Forever.
So they got a good attitude again, right? This is the right thing to do. They boasted in God all day long. Brandon? Yet you have rejected us and brought us to dishonor. And do not go out with our armies.
These past few verses, they've expressed confidence and trust in God. And now it seems like they've suffered some kind of defeat.
Yeah.
And they're probably confused and wondering why. And probably thinking that God may have rejected them and abandoned them in some way.
Yeah, they don't know why, right? But they feel rejected. So this is a hard tension. Okay? This is always the hard part. And this is what this psalm brings us into. Okay? We did the right way. We put our confidence. We know who you are. But why did it change? What's going on? Susie, you caused us to turn back from the adversary, and those who hate us have taken spoil for themselves.
They turned to self-pity, looks like, and they're blaming God for their enemy trampling over them.
Well, a part of it is like if you're the one who brings victory and it's not really dependent on us and we lost, it means it doesn't say it actually right out, but it implies it, doesn't it? So why, if I put my trust in you and following you as a Christian, doing the right things, why does it seem like I'm being treated like an unbeliever? Why? And we're going to go on further. Okay, Dan, verse 11, it says, you give us as sheep to eat, to be eaten, and have scattered us among the nations. Yep.
That's reflecting and repenting, possibly, but this is what's happening. I didn't see the other verse, but you give us the sheep that we used to eat, and it's like, what's going on here? We're just getting kicked off one by one.
Yep.
God's in control of that.
Yeah, it seems like we're being butchered. Why is this happening? Now, you might have to think about this. Like, why are Christians being persecuted and killed? It's on the similar thing.
It's the same reason they've always been done it. Because they hate God. Number one,
right.
They hate his people who love him, and they want to kill him because they remind them of the person they rejected.
But we have to realize God brings us into that tension of why he might let those things happen.
Oh, sure. I mean, that's what judgment on him, too. Kill these people. God wants
yep.
to get rid of it.
Yeah, so the thing is that this is a feeling like you're being persecuted and abandoned, yeah.
So this, if you, like, you reference, or we were reading about when they conquered the land, well, like early on, I forget what group of people they were going to go attack, and they didn't, either they took the ark, I forget the circumstance, whether they took the ark and they didn't really do what God wanted them to do, and they got basically
Tribe of Dan, yeah.
Yeah. So, but then there was a clear disobedience from what they were supposed to be doing. But here it's like we've been doing got the right attitude, yet we don't know why this is like all this stuff's happened.
Especially what happens. Remember, you may be just an ordinary person in the midst of Israel. Like if you promise to keep us and we have to depend on you, why don't you rescue us? And this seems to be like a faithful person in the midst of it.
Yeah, it seems like because the attitude's right, he's just like confused.
Yeah.
Well, this doesn't make sense.
Right, it doesn't make sense. Let's go verse 12. You sell your people cheaply and have not profited by their sale.
Yeah, they're getting sold and they're not getting the right amount for it.
Yeah. So people are getting sold, going into slavery, all this stuff. Even the idea of scattering to the nations. What's going on? J. Ewing, it says, you make us a reproach to our neighbors, scoffing and derision to those around us.
Yeah, the other things were more like kind of almost seemed physical. This is more like mental, like you're just being scoffed at, you're being heaped abuse on, and, mocked, and all the verbal things that, really drag a person down.
I mean, like say a Christian. I mean, let's do a New Testament style. Why are we reproached to our neighbor and scoffing and derision around us? I mean, God wants you to deal with them. Wants you, send down fire from heaven, like the disciples. Just like in the Elijah thing. Right? Why don't you? I'm not going to answer it yet because we're going to let the psalm answer. But it actually is going to use a quote in the New Testament. We're going to come to it in a little bit. Quoted from this passage. Kim, it says, you make us a byword among the nations, a laughing stock among the people. What's a byword?
Byword. It's kind of just like a passing thought. No, it's a byword.
Like a proverb, it's like a mocking kind of thing. Like goes along with a laughing stock.
Yeah.
Like people give weird, twisted names and call them this, that, or the other thing.
Like an afterthought?
Well, like a byword is like a proverb. It's kind of like they become, the Jews are an illustration. We'll just, how they call them Christians, as, a lot of things is that people use words to describe, people, and then they embrace that as the truth, but it really started as a ridicule. Like Yankee Doodle, the thing Yankee Doodle, we became Yankees. That actually was a deriding term, okay, and then they just embraced it. So, but the idea is that it became, you're a Yankee Doodle, okay? And they laughed at him. They were the butt of the jokes.
It's like you guys were God's people. Now look at it. You're nobody.
Yeah, you're those. Worship Jesus got killed on the cross. You worship the criminal. That becomes a. Jessica, all day long, my dishonor is before me and my humiliation has overwhelmed me.
So we're suffering all day. It's a constant, seemingly constant thing here. Often.
Yeah, there goes that Christian Jessica. walking down the street.
And they're getting overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, they feel overwhelmed by the ridicule, what's going on. Dave, verse 16, because of the voice of him who reproaches and reviles, because of the presence of the enemy and the avenger.
Well, the first part is a continuation of the verbal abuse. The second part is God is allowing them to be killed.
Taunted.
The avenger part is God.
Yeah.
God ultimately would be the avenger.
Yeah, but they're being used as an instrument of judgment. I mean, one of the tensions that you get in Habakkuk is that why does God let a more ungodly nation take them into captivity? Because God's going to display himself. If you read through that in Habakkuk 2, I think 14, is that he uses that to display himself in a greater way through the suffering. And we don't always see that part as beneficial.
Before they took him into captivity, however many years of, I'm going to do this, repent and change and whatever, and okay, it's been decided you're going for sure.
Right.
I said back in Deuteronomy, that's what would happen if you didn't do what I told you.
Yeah, so you have disobedience on one side, but then you have also, God has a plan to use this at the same time.
And then you have people like this in the midst of it, like, okay, all these, we each have our own spot to talk to God about and say, what's...
Okay. Yeah, because the thing is...
How do I deal with this?
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have the encounter with Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel in the lion's den, the three Meshach, Shadrach, all those displays would not be there if they didn't go into captivity. Right? And here you are, Daniel, you're faithful. The other ones, what happens? You got all these people that are... But God uses that because the nation was disobedient, but you have obedient people, and at the same time, God shows himself. Yep.
And they remember what their fathers had told them, but they're forgetting some things. Because their fathers went through all this. Even like the 400 years in slavery, and so that God could show his hand. And they didn't exactly feel like God was delivering them right away sometimes.
And the thing is, that's what we have to be careful about, selective remembering and not the whole story.
Right, they forgot the 40-year extra.
Yes. All right. Alicia, it says, all this has come upon us, but we have not forgotten you. We have not dealt falsely with your covenant. So this is a certain kind of person, right?
Mm-hmm. So I feel like even though you go through all this, you have to remember who God is. And you have to remember that he's in control, not you.
And you can't, like it says, we're still not going to forget him. We may feel forgotten. Right. We may feel abandoned. We may feel left out. But where else we go? For you have the words of eternal life. We have nowhere else to go. Okay? The options are not, I will not deal falsely with the covenant of submitting to God. So they resolve this in the middle. It doesn't seem like, but this shows faith in the midst of these types of things. Yeah. You're just stealing the verses that are coming up. That is the verse. You got it. Yeah. Because that's where this verse, that is the verse that's quoted in this song. Because that's how it connects. Steve, it says, our heart is not turned back. Our steps have not derivated from your way. Let me just summarize some of these. Let's go down. So he says, my heart, I'm staying true. Okay. Yet you have crushed us in a place of jackals and covered us with the shadow of death. And it says, if we had forgotten the name of our God or extended a hand to strange gods, I could understand it if we kind of abandoned you, but we didn't. Okay. And Would not God find out? Yeah, he'd find out, for he knows the secrets of the heart. And this is the verse. But for your sake we are killed all day long. We are considered as sheep to the slaughter. Where's that found? Romans 8. Isn't that interesting? And the thing is, so this has a very New Testament, Steve, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
So why are we being killed all day long and considered as sheep to the slaughter? Why are Christians killed?
For his name's sake.
Yeah.
For
So we're going to jump there. Follow up on Susie's. She got it, but this is the whole point. It says, but in all these things we are overwhelming conquerors through whom he loved us. Even though we may be killed all day long, we're still winning. How is that?
We're not living for this life alone.
Yeah. We win because we don't have to. We know that God is still loyal to us, even if we were to be killed for our faith. You see how that's the same thing that he goes. Let's go back to the Psalm. I just want to finish this and I'll explain it. Verse 23, arouse yourself, he calls upon God. Why do you sleep, O Lord? Awake and do not reject us. And the point is, like Romans says, he doesn't reject us, but he is allowing this to take place to actually bring victory. Verse 24, why do you hide your face and forget our affliction and our oppression? He's not. But he is allowing us to go through affliction and oppression and difficulty. Why? Because he's going to show that he is loyal and faithful and conquering in that love. For our souls have sunk down into the dust, our bodies cleave to the earth. Rise up, be our help, and redeem us for the sake of your loving kindness.
So he doesn't really get quite the closed loop that we get in Romans.
No.
I mean, it gets a little bit in the next verse.
You got it, yeah.
But it's not quite the assurance that there is in Romans.
No, it leaves it tense.
Dangling.
Yeah, and the thing is that you get the idea is that we're still redeemed by you. You're still the rescuer. And we're going to stick with it even though we feel this kind of, I mean, imagine the person who's left in prison, in jail for their faith.
So, I mean, this is kind of like the definition of faith right there. It's like you don't see it, but you know it.
Right, and how that is seen is exactly when it seemed like God has abandoned you. Where's your God now? Why don't you come down from the cross? Right, same kind of thing. But in a sense, the conquest takes place, the victory.
We're never alone. He's always with us.
Yeah. Even if we feel like...
That's the part that others don't get, is we know he's with us. So that changes, like, okay, we're never alone. He's with us. So we can have confidence no matter where we are.
No matter how we sense how things are going. You have to realize this is a showing of God overcoming and conquering. Even if it means, why is it that martyrdom is God allows martyrdom? Because he's showing the overwhelming strength of an individual to die at this price, showing how wonderful and great he is. And we are just to persevere in that very love affair. And because it goes on, verse 38, I am convinced that neither death nor life or angels or principalities or things present, things to come, nor powers or height or depth nor any other created thing will be able to separate us from the love of God. That's the kind of punchline. Never, which is in Christ Jesus. We're never going to be separated, even if we have to die. We may feel like, we're being persecuted. But God is using that to show His love.